And I'll just give you a little like message in the chat when you have 2 minutes left.
All right, we'll get the 2-minute warning. Is
Yeah.
that like a football thing?
How appropriate.
Yeah.
All
there
right,
you go.
cool. You can
What about college? But
well, I'll pretend
That's right.
I know what I'm
Come
talking
on.
about.
Good. It's good.
But you're a pro.
Yeah,
Exactly.
awesome. Well, I was just talking to your director, Peter, and I'm not really that into sports, but this sounded so interesting because it's sort of about bigger things that even somebody like me who knows nothing about sports would be interested. Was that kind of the plan here?
You are the target. It is all about that. It's just a much bigger, sports is the background for a bigger subject, as Peter no doubt told you.
Yeah, that's exciting. So it's about rivalries and why humans are hardwired to sort of want to battle each other, kind of thing. Maybe you'll like start world peace because of this. We'll figure it out.
You
Jon?
say that jokingly. No, I mean, I think it's really heartening to hear that, because that was always a thought, that there's something very sportsy about rivalries, but it is not limited to games and teams and athletes, and that a lot of this dynamic of having someone we measure ourselves against as a benchmark, someone we sort of cook up as a nemesis, Google and Apple are rivals, and Coke and Pepsi are rivals, and Mustang and Camaros are rivals, and it explains a lot of something biblical, literally biblical about this. It explains a lot of human behavior, this dynamic, and it's it makes for a documentary. And Peter did a great job when it's two football teams that are in bordering states, but it is a lot of the same infrastructure and a lot of sort of the same scaffolding when it's two political opponents. A lot of human behavior gets explained through the sports relationship.
Interesting. Yeah, because he was talking about how it's blue versus red, and it was exactly that in politics, which gets confusing. Some in Canada, and the liberals are red here, but the Republicans are red in the States. So I'm always like, yeah, which am I supposed to hate, the red or the blue? Or I don't know what's
we
going
all just get along.
Exactly. But it's interesting how easily you become a rival. Like if you're just in a car and you're like, oh, these pedestrians getting in my way. But the second you get out of your car, now you're pedestrian. Oh, these cars, they're driving too fast. Like it can flip with a switch, kind of which side you're on anything.
I'll tell you a funny story. There's a great experiment where they send kids away to camp, and you're a rattlesnake and you're a cowboy, and it's arbitrary. And by the end of the night, not only do you have these rivalries, but they are judging each other's behavior differently, and they are saying, if a rattlesnake committed this infraction, he should get this penalty, and the penalty is different if it's someone not on your team. It takes very little for tribalism to set in.
Oh yeah, like there's that other study where the prisoners and guards, like that's a classic that I don't even think they could do these days. But I think there was a movie, maybe like a sort of fictionalized version of it recently, but just showing how quickly, you say, oh, you're the guard, you're the prisoner, but these prisoners or the guards were abusing the prisoners almost instantly. It was just completely arbitrary.
One of the things that it's so true, and Josh, one of the things that we found and also wanted to illustrate is, but we need those rivals. Like that's how we define ourselves, right? The truth is, to your point, the rivalry is not arbitrary. It's very, very real, but the differences are pronounced intentionally, and that we are generally far more similar than we are different. And when you see, like you do in the film, you see players changing sides, right? It's heretical from a fan perspective, from a societal perspective, but yet they're the same person, right? No matter which side they're on. And that's, one of the real poetic things about this at the end of the day is that those differences are important on the field, but off the field, we're much more similar. And we couldn't really be ourselves without the rival.
Yeah, like it's kind of defines everything, but it's good to know, like to recognize it so that we can say, oh yeah, the sports are good because it allows society sort of this safety valve of, let's get our whatever our need for aggression or rivals is, so we'll know that we need sports, because if we didn't have it, now we got to go back to this, a real war. Exactly. I mean, I guess that's what the point of the Olympics is, right? Let's battle each other there, and hopefully not have to battle each other in real life. That's crazy.
And go ahead, Jon, please.
Well, no, I mean, I would say the flip side of that is that rivals brings out excellence. And when you have an Olympics and everyone measures themselves up against other countries, that's what pushes world records to get broken. And when, why don't we like Monopoly? Because we don't like monopolies because they they cut off competition. We like it when Steve Jobs says, I want to take down Microsoft. That's how we innovate. We like it when there are multiple political parties. So at its worst, rivalry breeds tribalism. At its best, it breeds competition that in turn brings us innovation and brings us personal records. And there's something not just healthy about competition, but there's something essential. We get the best out of our performance when we're being pushed.
There's no one you want to compete against more than that rival. Everything else is a warm up to getting back to being in the ring, whatever that ring may look like.
Right.
Then being in it with that which you define yourself by. But remember, this is all about turning that camera off the field and to what it means to all of us, right? And how we follow along with that, and how deeply rooted in our society, whether it's through work and politics and religion, it sort of supersedes in many ways all of those things.
Yeah. Because I was watching a little video clip yesterday. This guy, Peter Diamandis, who's this big entrepreneur, and he's like, why don't we have, more advances in rocket technology or something? So he started a contest, $10 million for whatever. And it worked amazingly well. Like finally these people did it, but you kind of needed, and I guess a bit of it was the prize money, but also, it's just making a rivalry. So maybe that's what'll, cure aging. If you say, oh, well, we've got a contest now. Oh, really? We've got to beat these people kind of thing, rather than just, I guess that's the problem with socialism, right? It's like if everybody's making the same thing and there's no incentive to sort of exceed, then you don't advance.
Yeah. Well, that's a good analogy. I know him well. I mean, he's the birth of abundance. And, there's a lot of centrality to this. It's about sports, but it's really about life, right? And it even goes beyond human beings. I mean, you see animals playing, and the difference between when they're playing and when they're fighting. And and they like to play, and fighting's an entirely different thing. And it's essential to being, is what we really find.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and it's important to remember that, because if you see dogs or any kind of animals sort of just naturally, like, they're pretending to bite each other, but they're not, like, they're not ripping each other's throats out. And I guess you need to recognize that in humans as well, like where little boys might be tackling each other all the time, and maybe the tendency these days might be, hey, no, don't do that, you're being too aggressive, you're a toxic male, but boys naturally want to do that kind of thing, and probably more than women naturally want to do that. They want to be, they're cooking for their little baby dolls and stuff. Like I see it with my niece and nephew, just how, he's just throwing himself off things, and she's just like taking her baby doll around. But yeah, so it's I guess, this would help us sort of just think about society and how we raise kids and everything. What was your particular interest like in this research?
It started ironically with tennis, where Ken and I are from, and we saw this rivalry between Roger Federer and Rafa Nadal in tennis, and this one-on-one sport. And we said, what's going on here in this dynamic, and someone to push you towards excellence, and having a rival that occupies your thoughts, but also at some level you appreciate the relationship. I think that's one thing we're talking about playing, but I think that's one thing rivals recognize, that ultimately, as much as they might dislike the person when they're competing, ultimately they realize that this person is giving them an essential service, that this is a real sort of a help to them in the long run. And we just thought this whole concept of rivalry, it's exactly what we're talking about. We haven't mentioned the word football once in this conversation, which sort of validates the whole concept, which is that sports rivalry is helpful, it's entertaining, it's what the fans like, but it really goes so much deeper than balls bouncing across a net.
And I'll tell you, additionally, if you go outside of even the sports world, you start thinking about movies, right? What is generally a film about? Which is at least a good portion of the films have a dramatic tension between at least two characters. If it's one of the sort of blockbusters, it's probably going to end with a mano fist fight on the wing of a plane or a planet somewhere.
Absolutely.
But it's two people facing off who have been driven towards each other to save the universe, right? We cannot escape this thing. And so we wanted to really look inside that and say, what is it about us that requires this? And what we learned is it's something that seems like a negative at first is actually in most ways positive. And what's really fascinating, Josh, is when you get to the rivals themselves, once they're off the field and they've sort of lived past the period of competing, they often are the best of friends, and they often there's few others that they find respite with, right? The Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer have the greatest respect. There's a great friendship, and you know, Bird and Magic, who wanted to rip each other's throats out on the court, you know, obviously consider each other, you know, two of the best friends that they have, and that it's remarkable and consistent.
Yeah, because you'll often see like, well, how can Bill Clinton be friends with George W. Bush or whatever, you know, and it's like, well, you know, they were rivals in that sense, kind of thing. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, I had a screenwriting teacher that told me, it's like, you know, nobody wants to see your movie, but oh, I'm not fulfilled because I want to sing, want to dance. She's like, no, I want to see a life and death conflict with someone else, and then that's what you gotta write. Nobody's interested in your inner torment, kind of thing. So that's great. So are you you know, I've got to wrap this up, but are you rivals with other filmmakers? Are you hoping to win an Oscar with this, defeat them with your documentary?
The other sports documentaries that have flooded the market have teased excellence out of us. So we may be competitive, but we appreciate the bar they have set.
Yeah.
Right. That's very diplomatic.
I think our goal is, obviously there's a lot of great work being done, is as you started, Josh, to go beyond what's considered the traditional sports documentary, to look at this. And if you don't really care about sports, it's sports as a lens into society, into who we are, into why this type of entertainment and competition is so huge and important to us culturally.
Yeah, because a lot of people will criticize sports, say it's useless, it's pointless. It's two guys running a ball on rolling feet, and you know, if you look back, you know, if you look at it very simply, like, yeah, it's like, this is ridiculous. What the heck are we doing here? But obviously, there's something there, so it's great.
Wars come to standstill. You know, I mean, Hitler had Jesse Owens. It's definitely matters. It's consistent. It's consistent throughout humanity, and it goes beyond that. So that's what we're out to prove, and we're going to keep exploring it, hopefully.
Fascinating. Yes, I look forward to the sequels and the TV series, the Netflix, whatever's going on with this. And I better start playing some sports so I can be in the documentary. It'll be like seniors ping pong or something. I don't know. All right. Thank you so much, guys.
Josh, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Josh.